Hey everyone, and welcome to today's live stream where we will be discussing good and evil, what it means, what you can do about it, what it says about yourself. So, okay, I believe good and evil is a concept that defines how actualized, how healthy we are, how we have come into our own personality type, how much we have accepted ourselves, how much we believe in ourselves, and how much we are ready to act on our core values and core beliefs. So the base idea is this: okay, when you're good, you're ready to act on your own values. You hold your own values to be important. You consider things inside to be inherently meaningful, and you are prepared to act to pursue these things, even when it might appear difficult or futile or impossible. So, good and the concept of good is strongly tied to the concept of belief. How much can you believe? How much can you have hope? And how much value can you place on your own core values? So the base idea is this: a lot of people question their own values. They disconnect from or detach from things that are inside of us conceived to be inherently important. So every personality type has a set of things that they conceive to be inherently important. We access these things from our feeling, our thinking function. So feelers access their sense of meaning from feeling. Thinkers assess their sense of meaning from thinking. So when a thinker decides to give up on thinking, when a thinker decides that their rules that they have decided upon are no longer important, when the feeler decides that the values that they have or the intentions that they are working towards are impossible, that usually represents a kind of plunge to evil or a sense of doubt. So, okay, why am I talking about evil? First, I came into it by starting to read upon a book. My girlfriend was reading this series called School of Good and Evil, and in this Harry Potter-like book, characters are sorted into being good or evil, and they're not done this on their own choice. This is done against their will by a school headmaster who can see in your soul if you are pure good or pure evil. So the belief here is you are either or, you can never change, and if you are evil, you will always be evil, and if you're good, you will always be good. So that's the whole premise of the book. At least it's an interesting one. It got my head spinning, and it got me thinking about these things. So hi Sue, and hi Saku, and hi Nanette, thanks for joining up. What I want to show you in this video is what happens when your personality type makes a plunge towards evil, and what happens when you reaffirm the good side inside yourself. What I believe is we all have a good side and an evil side. So, okay, we can conceive in ourselves things that we feel are good. You know, this is subjective. This whole concept of good and evil is subjective. It comes from yourself. It's your values. It's your decision on what is good and what is evil. So the only way to understand it is by looking at yourself. Okay, what do you think is right or wrong in this situation? Okay, you notice that somebody is cheating on their girlfriend or boyfriend. Should you tell them? What should you do? What is the right thing to do? Is there a right thing to do? Are they making a bad decision to begin with? Like, all those questions, they depend on you and, of course, what you find to be meaningful. So the idea of evil is different from just making a bad decision. You know, you can make bad decisions. Anyone can make a bad decision. The idea of evil is that an evil person will make a bad decision intentionally. So they will cheat intentionally. So they will steal intentionally. So they will hurt other people with or from free will and with getting some kind of joy from it, or getting some kind of happiness from it. So we have the idea of the psychopath, and that's basically become the definition of ultimate evil in today's society. And the base idea of the psychopath and sometimes the sociopath is that they have no ability to feel remorse, no ability to feel bad if they make a mistake, no ability to feel bad when they lie. They can lie their way through a lie detector test, and there's no stress from doing so. So the idea is they are basically a kind of ultimate evil. Uh, I don't know if that's the case, but what I do feel is that we can sometimes do bad things, and we can sometimes intend to do bad things. Why do we usually do it? Well, it usually comes from a position of turmoil. I've been discussing this with a lot of you over Discord, for example, you, Peter. And what I've been saying is that, and this is Carl Jung's theory as well, like you have a shadow side, you have an unconscious, and you have anxieties, and you have shame, and you have bad feelings. We all have these things. So the problem is not that you have anxieties and that you sometimes get angry or upset. There's nothing evil about feeling bad feelings, contrary to what the Jedi tend to believe in Star Wars. Everyone feels upset. Sometimes it's human, it's natural. It doesn't make you a bad person. Having jealousy does not make you a bad person. Feeling distress does not make you a bad person. So the problem is when this is repressed, and when we start acting on these negative feelings unconsciously without realizing it. So why would we do that? What do you think? What happens when you feel anger and you start acting on it unconsciously against your own awareness? Well, first you start to form negative beliefs. Okay, you start to form angry beliefs. You start to form an angry, unconscious worldview. You start to perceive other people as liars. You start to look down on them. You start to feel envious. If you start to feel, you can start to feel like the world around you is evil. And often this is like the breeding ground of evil. And, when you talk about, for example, people who lie and people who steal and so on, is that they tend to have given up on the concept of hope, and they tend to believe that there is the world is evil, and that is what reinforces their desire to act and be evil. So this is also interesting when we talk about psychopaths, because a lot of research says, yeah, a lot of people can have the genetic makeup of a psychopath. So what that means is, yeah, they are, genetically speaking, they have a lot of the genes, like they are competitive and so on and so forth, but that is not enough to make you evil. To be evil, you have to have experienced some kind of trauma growing up, and that is what put you in a state of war, in a sense, where you came to believe that you were at war with the world, and that the world was a kind of lawless place where ethics and being good and so on serve no purpose. So there are plenty of psychopaths who are and act like good and moral citizens because they have learned that it is in their benefit to be good and moral citizens. So they have come to believe that most of the time, if I will do the good thing, I will be rewarded for it. But then you have psychopaths that have come to believe that evil decisions will be more rewarding than good decisions. So being evil will get me ahead in society. It will get me more money. It will get me further. It will get me to win. So the psychopath is basically that person. It is the person that has been born with a certain makeup and then has had a trigger in their childhood. And that's a trigger that's very hard to beat. What I've encountered when I managed people that in my head I have perceived as evil, in a sense, is they have all tried to tell me a story. They've all told me that, Erik, there is no point in telling the truth. There is no point in doing the good thing because nobody cares. There is no point in caring or doing this because, yeah, everybody else is going to act and be selfish. So there's no point. That's what they keep telling me. Like, that's what I keep getting from them. Okay, there's no point in being good. There is no purpose on it. So What this suggests is one thing: it's only worthwhile to be a good person if everybody else also decides to be a good person. I don't know if that is the case. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's a sign of a healthy mind. I believe there is a value in doing what you think is ethically right for the sake of yourself. So I believe that if you tell the truth, if you're honest, if you're modest, if you try to play along with the rules, if you try to speak out when you see people do bad things, all of those things are going to be internally rewarding. They are going to fill you with a sense of meaning. You know, good people, they act and live as if life has meaning and purpose. They act as if things matter, as if my relationships matter, my connections matter, my pets matter to me, life matters to me. So the good person has and believes all these things, and that creates an inner sense of positivity. It makes you able to believe, it makes you able to have hope, it makes you able to feel better. Where an evil person does not have these things. They don't have these things. They cannot feel this sense of goodness. They cannot feel this sense of meaning. They often go through life feeling like life is meaningless. There is no point. Why am I really here? So there's almost like a depressed realization here in the evil person. Like life does not matter. You know, like in this book, it's the concept of happily never after. So yeah, these people do not believe they will ever be happy. They do not believe in a happy ending. They do not believe that they will get a good outcome for themselves. They might believe that short term, yeah, I can get ahead, I can cheat, I can lie, but they all know to some extent that, yeah, I'm not living a good life, and I'm probably not gonna, and this is not gonna end well, and I'm probably not gonna succeed. So almost all evil people have this belief that they have no future, no happy future, at least. And there are lots of psychologists that believe this. So you have, what's his name again? He just wrote a book on free will and the rational society. Okay. Steven Pinker, there we go. He thought this. He derived this kind of liberal economic principle where he said, people do bad things when they don't believe they have a future. And what this means is, yeah, they don't have a family, or they don't think they will survive by tomorrow. They know they don't have enough money for food. They know that they are in a bad situation. So this kind of breeding ground is usually what causes people to do evil acts and acts of atrocities. The stronger you take away a person's sense of attachments, roots, community, and a sense of future from them, the more likely they are to commit acts of mass evil. And then we can talk about really big atrocities here, like school shootings and other kinds of acts. So that's the one realization we have here, is we have to instill people with a sense of future. We have to give them roots. We have to give them connections. We have to make sure they have like these things, these safety nets to keep them from falling towards evil. And here's the thing we can speculate about. What happens when an INFJ falls towards evil? What happens when an ENTP falls towards evil? What happens when an ENFP falls towards evil? What happens when an ISFJ falls towards evil? What happens when you take away an ENTP's opportunities and connections. And if you take away an ENTP's chance to progress in the system and their chance to win in a chess game, what happens if you put them in this situation of feeling cornered? Well, that's when you start seeing a regression towards the shadow functions. So what can happen with what can happen with ENTP? Well, I believe it's this falling towards extroverted feeling perceiving. ENTPs gone bad make this kind of fall towards extroverted feeling perceiving. And what this means is, it's this adaptation of the FP honesty. It's that adaptation of that extroverted feeling morals. But it is the flip side of these things. So it creates an ENTP that is directly anti-moral and anti-honesty. Evil ENTPs are fierce advocates against honesty. They almost see honesty as something evil in itself. Their rationalized worldview sees being honest as something evil. Their rationalized evil comes from this dismantling of morality, this attack on morality, this attack on the idea that you can have good ethics, that you can be a good person in relationships, that you can do good things. So ENTPs that make the plunge to evil, what you see them do is, well, first they start acting like shitty human beings, generally shitty human beings. Like generally they hurt people, they lie to people, they manipulate people, they deceive people, like they fall into this like sociopath like archetype. What happens with the INTJ who falls towards evil? Well, it's this IFJ flip side that tends to come about. So what happens? Okay, well, first the INTJ adopts this kind of anti-kindness or this kind of anti-empathy. INTJs develop this idea that empathy is for the weak and that empathy is something bad. They develop this idea that kindness is something evil. So they start rationalizing this mindset where you should be mean to people, where you should destroy their work, where you should damage them or hurt them by your words, where you should say things that will upset them, where you should show the opposite of care and consideration. So you should be the opposite of a delicate. You should be basically doing whatever you can to hit the person as hard as possible. Show as little regard as possible to their personal state and who they are. And this is, of course, what allows the INTJ to then progress and to move forward on their vision and to move towards like this existential aim. This is what creates like this idea of the evil mastermind, master manipulator. Basically, this comes with with the thinker abandoning like the rules, the game, the strategy, and deciding to disregard it as only important as long as it serves your purpose. So what happens when you make a decision to be good and to do the right thing? First, you get what you need to keep on playing. So the ENTP keeps making connections, keeps seeing new opportunities, keeps looking for other ways around it, keeps looking for ways to come out ahead, keeps developing their skills, keeps looking at ways to keep improving, stays competitive, stays hardworking, stays pragmatic, keeps pushing themselves to be better, better, to develop. ENTPs who can reclaim and can find their good side of self go away from that sense of apathy that a lot of ENTPs struggle with, because a lot of ENTPs do struggle with a general sense of apathy, and it is difficult for them. A lot of ENTPs that I've talked to have talked about this with me, that they struggle with this sense of disillusionment with morals, this disillusionment with society, with right and wrong, with good and evil. They feel they struggle with it because they want something to fight for. Okay, everybody wants something to fight for. Everyone wants a concept of future. Everyone wants roots. Everyone wants family. Everyone wants these like ideas of good things. What do thinkers want more than anything? It is achievement. Achievement is the ENTP's dream. Creating a grand new invention, taking forward or seeing through a successful strategy, becoming more productive, gaining a new skill, improving at something. So that's the sign of thinker growth. Good to me is growth dichotomy. Evil is a regression dichotomy. So when you see heroes go towards evil, you also notice a strong regression, because these people, they do not believe anymore. They do not know what to do anymore. They often struggle with general sense of confusion. They are often torn between if they should be good or evil. They are often they're often lacking a sense of meaning and energy, and meaning is energy. Meaning is what gets you to see through your goals. It's what gets you to work at your relationships. It's what gets you to push yourself towards your dreams. So often what happens when a regression towards evil starts? Well, people tend to give up their dominant calling. You see, like when Anakin decides to go towards the dark side, what you see is him giving up on his ultimate dream. His ultimate dream always to become a Jedi. He gave up on that as he regressed towards evil. And of course, he was never himself again. He was heavy breathing. He was wearing a suit. He was angry all the time. He was in this state. And that brings us to Iris' point here. Why should we use the concepts of good and evil in the first place? Why not just unhealthy, healthy, or disintegrating, integrating? Yeah. What we do need to move towards, of course, good and evil is a fairy tale concept. It's a religious concept. It is a concept that only lives in storybooks. And perhaps in some really deluded and polarizing people. Oh my God, we just got our first €2 donation from Saku. Oh, thanks so much. Thanks, Saku. Banana. Well, thank you for those wise words. Nothing is truly evil or good, just healthy and unhealthy, as like Fairy of Something says. Evil is just a regression. It's a temporary regression as well, because if any fairy tale that has gotten a second story knows almost all evil characters get their redemption at some point, and they get some semblance of a happy ending. And most people are eventually forced to go back to and to believe in the things that they find to be meaningful. It is such a natural part of ourselves. All of us, all human beings, can feel and experience meaning. We are naturally developed to be able to see the world as inherently meaningful. We are trained by our biology, by who we are, to read our experiences, our connections as even sometimes spiritually significant. How did it come to be that I met just this person today? It feels almost strange that I met this person at this situation, at this moment. We're trained to see things as meaningful, and we're trained to see things as having value and matter. And this goes for thinkers too. They're trained to see that skill and achievement matters, and that strategies and the ability to create and see through projects, that matters, that's important. You could sum it up by saying meaning is just a version of dopamine. It's not dopamine, but it's like a neurotransmitter in your brain that causes your brain to light up and go like, yay, banana. It's basically like a banana. Thanks, Nanette Winston, for the $5. I really appreciate that. So glad to see you all donating. So the other important part then is evil people do have a moral conscience. They do have something they find to be meaningful that they're constantly pulling away from. You know, what does it feel like to give up on something you find to be meaningful? Well, you find yourself constantly thinking about it. That's first. Like, you're constantly rejecting it. Every day you get up, you're rejecting it. Every day you make a decision, every day you do something, you're constantly rejecting it. There's just a difficult thing, you know. Is evil making a conscious bad decision, or is it making an unconscious one? So yeah, is unconscious evil, or or are we able to be consciously evil? Ferry says, when I was evil, it was definitely conscious. I think that's true for myself as well. When I did bad things, it was definitely conscious. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was running away from something. I was upset about something. I was afraid of something. But then there are so many shitty things that humans have done that are definitely unconscious. Like a lot of the atrocious evil we saw in the Nazi Germany was, in a degree, unconscious evil. It was just pure obedience. It was people simply practicing this kind of bureaucratic evil, lawful evil. I only did it because they told me to. I did not think about why I did it or whether it was right or wrong. They told me to, so I did it. That's the base concept, and there were a lot of people that were associated with this. You know, Hannah Arendt, amazing philosopher, Jewish philosopher, uh, German-born American philosopher. Sorry, she wrote about this kind of unconscious evil, or the sense of banality of evil. So you should really look up her. And then, yeah, you have the idea of necessary evils. So conscious evil decisions made for the greater good. Oh yeah, those classic, shall I kill 100 people to save 1,000 people? That's the ultimate test, isn't it? To be put in a situation where you have to be evil out of necessity, and where you have to live with that. I think the idea of necessary evil is just really like that question of a moral dilemma. When you know something is good, but you know it is also bad. When you have something that you perceive to be good, but at the same time, on another side, on another perspective, is evil. So we're all faced with a lot of these choices where we have no idea if the outcome is good or evil, or when we know the outcome is going to be both good and evil. And yeah, I think those situations are best called afterwards as tragedies. I believe a lot of the time when we think it is a necessity to be evil, we are missing some part of the truth. And I believe we should always reach for and search to be good. And I feel, and this is something I've been coming to think about more and more, to be good, you have to be really, really creative. The good person has to constantly keep searching for the truly good decision. When they are faced with moral dilemmas, they have to constantly creatively devise off and work towards and ask for help from other people and work together with others for the sake of surviving this moral dilemma and getting through it and finding another way. So the good person is, to me, the person that believes in the third way. I often believe, like, when you're faced with choices and both outcomes feel bad, like, should I vote for the left party or the right party? What we should always be looking for is the third way, the third alternative. That's the best way to move in a direction that is truly good. And to hold on to your sense of meaning without feeling corrupted, without feeling compromised, without falling into a point where you start doing things that you don't like or don't want or don't find to be meaningful or ethical or right. Like voting for the lesser of two evils, Stalin or Hitler. How about just moving to Antarctica? Yeah, that's right. If you're faced with voting between Hitler and Stalin, move to Antarctica. I promise that's a better outcome. I think it's also about reclaiming perspective, whatever you do. Maintain perspective with everything you do. Every action you do should be mindful, should be conscious, should be self aware. Always know what you're doing, always know why you're doing it, always know the outcome, or try to think about the outcome. Try to think about how other people are going to feel about it. Try to think about how it's going to affect other people. Gain as much perspective as you can, understand as much of the bigger picture as possible as you move forward. And as you make decisions, as you make mistakes, as you feel that urge to turn off or pretend not to see or to ignore, to keep that sense of perspective and richness. So just constantly verify for yourself why you're doing it, for what reason, and should you constantly ask yourself, is this the right thing? Is there something better I can do? Because the most shitty thing are people who believe they have good intentions that do horrible things. I think the most difficult position is those that of good people that think they are doing the right thing, but in reality they are hurting other people. Those people are the most difficult to deal with. That's the biggest struggle. Self-deceitful, the self-deceitful good, the bad person with the good intentions. That's why I think most of us want to unconsciously avoid pride or compliments or so on because of that fear of becoming self-deceitful, of becoming arrogant, of thinking you know better, of falling into this position of oblivious evil. So I'm gonna say thanks for joining up in today's live stream. Thanks everyone who donated. If you also want to donate, you can also become a patron. I'll link you to the Patreon right now. If you donate to Patreon, you can get special rewards. You can ask me questions. We can do Skype calls or discussions together. You can request content and articles. And yeah, if you want to join up the after talk, we're going to have an after discussion right now. So do come on Discord and share your thoughts on this topic. Let people know, how do you feel about good and evil? And yeah, are you good and evil? Are you neutral? Or what does that mean to you? So yeah, also, this is my Sweden shirt celebrating the 1-0 against Switzerland today. Awesome match. Truly awesome match. Quarterfinal, kvartfinal. Amazing. That hasn't happened since 1994. It's been a while. Thanks for joining up, everyone. Thanks for joining up, Awakened. Thanks, Amber, Nanette, Nafil, Ferry, Dancino, Orla, Susu, Benevolence. Hey, I like your name. Fitting name. Iris, Sarah, Geir,